Hey everybody, it's Shanice G, and you are listening to The Voice from the Village. Thank you guys for meeting me back for this week's episode. This week we're going to be talking about bullying, basically. And this is the last week of the month, so this will be the last topic. Well, maybe not the last very topic about schooling, but this general month is going to be about anything, any topics related to school, and then we'll move on to something next week for the month to have a whole nother topic. But yeah, so we all know bullying either seems to have increased or our sensitivity to it has. And not saying that we shouldn't be sensitive to bullying, it is a very serious subject. I'm just saying we are, it seems, raising a different generation of children where, you know, a few years ago or back in the day, the same things, not the same exact things, because some of them are very drastic, but some of the more basic things that were considered bullying is just kind of like a way of life in a way, or the way you would joke between your friends kind of thing. But obviously now we know it's not the case, and it's becoming more and more serious where children are getting mentally and physically hurt. Kids are committing suicide at very, very young ages, or at least contemplating it, writing it down, making videos of how upset they are and what their wishes are to end their life because they don't have a good school life relationship with the children around them, or maybe some of it's the teachers too. And then we also have had a pretty big spike in school shootings, which is really, really scary, especially because most of the time it's coming out that the person responsible for the shootings was being bullied a lot. Some of those instances, the bully wasn't all innocent with their actions, but in general, we're just gonna talk about how I generally feel about bullying and what I think can help us essentially not be the biggest bullies. I did post on my Instagram as well as my Facebook page a picture that said parents, along the lines, I don't remember exactly, but basically that parents end up being their first child's bully, or their child's first bully rather, which I definitely believe. I have read, I have witnessed, experienced, I live this life day to day where your child's inner voice is actually the parent's outer voice. So the way that you talk to or interact with your child ends up being their inner voice. And if you can imagine, if your outer voice to your child is constantly negative, that's what their inner voice is. That's the way they think of themselves. That's the way they talk to themselves in their head. So on top of the negativity that they may be receiving on the outside, now they're also receiving it on the inside and creating a very negatively minded child, which I think kind of trails into either them being very sensitive, very bottled in, and being the one that's bullied and eventually blows up and takes their anger out on innocent people, or they end up being the one that is the bully, because they are learning that that particular way of talking to people or trying to make somebody do something for you, that's a norm for them and a way of life and the way that they should carry themselves out towards other people or other children, which is really sad. And a lot of us, I don't think, take the time to like really think about how we're coming off to our kids. And I'll be honest, I struggle with this every day because I grew up for at least half my life with a mostly negative outer voice for a parent role. And I you know, we can just trail it back to how that parent was raised, back to how those parents were raised. It just goes on and on. So it's almost like a cycle. And either the next generation didn't pick up on it and think it's a norm and this is the only way that they know, or, you know, they might not care enough, or I don't know. I don't know what other reason, like, it would just, like, keep being a cycle if you, like, I feel like I recognize when I am acting that way, but there's almost something so natural about it that I can't stop myself before I start talking negatively or before I start yelling. So lately, it's been just really, really trying to be present and aware of what I'm doing, what I'm saying to my daughter, to try to make sure that I'm not always being negative or that there's an actual reason for me to yell, you know, that I've already tried the other routes or something like that. But I just think sometimes we have to take a step back and think, is it, you know, is it us? Are we the ones starting this behavior, condoning this behavior by our own actions? And then take a look on how our kids are reacting and how they are interacting with their own peers. So for my personal experience, since I know I have a short temper and I do tend to be quick to yell, and my temper's so short that I know that it's a lot. I yell a lot. I might seem like all milk and cookies and fun activities on social media, but social media only shows the aspects that I want to show. Obviously, I'm not going to show you guys a video of me screaming at my kid because it's now the 10th time I asked her to do something and she forgot, or she thinks she knew what she was supposed to do and didn't do it, or, you know, there's a lot of talking back, or because I haven't been consistent in consequences for certain types of behavior, she has come accustomed to behaving that way, and now my mind is like, no, our brain nerves have snapped and I'm not dealing with it anymore, but it's almost my fault for letting certain types of behavior go on for so long, like the talking back, or her having such a, I don't want to say such like the freedom to speak, because I feel like it's important to give your kids some free, like enough freedom that they feel comfortable to speak their mind and their feelings. But I feel like I overdid it where now she just feels like she's basically my equal and doesn't always respect what I say, as if it's more of a suggestion than me telling her something that she needs to do for a particular reason, whether it's toward like discussing things about hygiene habits, or cleaning her room, picking out clothes, or, you know, just doing the task that's set ahead of her instead of getting distracted, or, you know, telling me 1 second when we might be on more of a time constraint for the day, or what have you. So there's so many different examples where I know that I can really get on top of monitoring my own behavior, so she learns and understands where the authority lays, or yeah, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say, where the authority is, and you know, what the proper way for us to internalize certain emotions so we can get the right message across the right way. So I think my biggest tip for you guys regarding bullying is for us as parents to be way more mindful of how we actually interact with our kids, because it stems from us. It stems from us just being in a bad mood because of work, or our partner's getting on our nerves, so we're taking whatever may be happening in your life, you're taking it out on your kid, or like me, that you have a short temper, and it takes the littlest thing, the littlest form of disrespect, the littlest, talking back, or the word no, or wait a minute. Those are some of my trigger phrases. That just, set us off, and now we're yelling, and sometimes it takes a while to get calm again, to recognize if we were wrong with what we were yelling about, and to actually apologize. So that leads into my next tip. When you recognize that you are wrong for whatever you are angry about, apologize to your child, no matter how young they are, whether they're going to remember what even happened when you were angry, or my daughter, she is so loving and forgiving that she is super lovable, even as sometimes she's crying because I just yelled at her or something. She'll ask for a hug. So we have very, very significant children out here that are so open-minded and have such big hearts that we don't want to diminish it by treating them like crap and then expecting them to always be able to pick themselves up, especially when we're in the wrong. So me being more mindful is going to give me the ability to be able to recognize more when I'm wrong for yelling, or be able to take that step back right before, or catch myself before I'm about to yell. So when I'm wrong for it happening, I know that I need to take that moment to apologize for being overly dramatic, or at least explain why I was mad. I know some parents, I don't think, agree with explaining why you said what you said or made them do what they need to do, but I think it's important to follow up with explanation if explanation wasn't done, in conversation or previous to you getting upset or something like that. Because if they don't really understand why they need to behave the way that you're asking them to, or the importance behind it, then they're not going to make it a priority. They're not going to alter their behavior because they're just chalking it up. Oh, here we go. Here's another command or demand that my mom or my dad want me to do, and it seems like for no reason. I don't see why we would need to do this. This seems stupid. There's a bunch of things that if you remember being a kid and your parent telling you to do any particular thing, we didn't understand why we needed to, what our parent was trying to get out of us, help us learn, prepare us for. We didn't care about any of that. All we cared about what was our priorities at the time, which usually are, our toys, our friends, these days, iPads and tablets and whatnot. So I think that's also really important. So being mindful, apologizing when you're wrong, and explaining the reasoning behind what you're saying or what you're telling them to do. You might not do it right away when the demand was put into play, but I think eventually at some period of time, whether it's before or after, the explanation should be thrown in there, just so the child knows how important it is, or at least why it's important to you based on how you were raised. Because some of our parenting habits were just for our family, how we personally were raised, or it's something that we personally researched and we like better as a parenting style, and we think it's an important stepping stone for our child to learn to be the best people that we can be. That's all parenting really is. A million times over you'll hear that I can't tell you the perfect way to be a parent. I can only tell you what I'm working with, what I struggle with, what works for me, and hopefully it can be helpful for somebody that also thinks like me, for somebody that may have no clue which way to turn. They've already tried a billion other ways and, they never heard of this one or something like that. So that's all this really is. So yeah, those are generally and then other things definitely for bullying, as far as we need to teach our kids how to interact and with other children, and obviously that starts at a very, very young age. Making sure that, I would say, making sure that taking them out where there are a lot of other children and a mix of other children, different nationalities, different backgrounds, different places where they're from, like where they grew up, city, suburbia, the country, every aspect, or every walk of life, that's what I would want to say better. Every walk of life you'd want to try to expose your child to as young as possible, as many times as possible, and teach them, proper behaviors that would allow them to get along with the majority of people. Not everybody's going to get along with everybody, and that's totally fine. But if you're at least letting them experience different types of relationships at a very young age, they'll be it'll be easier for them to adapt to different types of people, know how to carry themselves with different groups of people, whether they really care for certain types of personalities. They'll at least know, I might not be super friendly to this type of person because I don't blend well with them, but I don't need to be rude, mean, degrading towards that type of person for any particular reason. Teach your kids to share is really important in the beginning, especially if you have only children. There's not many, people in the world that they need to share with, especially around their own age. So definitely developing play groups would probably be really helpful. Play groups with people around the same age as your child, so they have more and more experience with being able to share their time, share their objects, whatever they own or what someone else may own, and just create that really good balance of somebody, or creating this little person that's really really easy to get along with. That's what I feel like my parents, or the people that I had around me to help me grow up, really helped me with, as well as I always had like a shy personality anyway, so I was always the one observing, like taking my time getting to know people, and I really pride myself in my ability to not be very judgmental when it comes to new people. So I'm hoping that really is rubbing off on my daughter, and she sees that at the very least I'll give anybody new a chance in my life, and based on how they treat me is how essentially I'll treat them, and I'll never treat a person wrong or rude just for preconceived conceptions about any particular person or group of people. We have had experiences where other family members or other people in her life have told her things that were like stereotypes of other groups of people, and I felt the need to like step in, correct her, and just let her know that, one, most stereotypes are not accurate, or you kind of need to understand the background behind the stereotype to understand like where it comes from, where it kind of fits, but not allow that to like be a reason why you don't like someone. Like a family member at one time had told her, Obama is a bad man because he's Muslim. And there's been a variety of things with certain family members that I'm like, first of all, you don't judge someone based on like where they're from, their religion, sexual orientation, even though we haven't really got too much into sexual orientation yet, but all those type of things. You don't judge anyone based on where they come from or anything that you have not experienced yourself. If you had a bad experience with a person, then you're more than welcome to decide that that's not the type of person that you'd like to hang out with, but that's an individual. That is not a group of people. So you can't prejudge a group of people based on one negative experience with one person that's part of that group, which essentially equals our racism and prejudice and, bullying that goes on day to day amongst adults too. So you know, we just have to do better with making sure our kids are more well-rounded, and just know that, as cliche as it is, you treat the people around you the way that you would like to be treated. And if you can't, then you need to do your best to work on fixing those types of behavior, because no one's going to want to be around you. And unfortunately, it's going to lead to one of those drastic scenarios where, you know, either your child is being hurt because they were the bully, and, you know, the person that was being bullied had enough, or they're being hurt because the bully is ganging up on them or something like that. We just have to be more active in our child's life and recognize certain types of behavior that aren't acceptable, and do our best to make sure we are being the best example for our kids, and making them really strong, happy people. We have so many negative, angry people in this world that we just need to spread way more positivity, get these kids positively thinking every day, so they go into school like this is a brand new day. Let me meet somebody new, let me change somebody's world, let me make somebody else smile or laugh today. Those are really, really important. So those are my particular tips on how I believe we can start cutting back on the amount of bullying and the crazy situations that have been arising within our school-age children, or not even just school-age children, but around children that are being bullied by sometimes the very parents that gave birth to them and raising them. So let's try to be more mindful, apologize when necessary, explain why or what is the reason behind whatever is being taught. And what were the other ones? And basically just generally tell your kids or teach your kids to treat others the way they would like to be treated. And I think we will be off to a very, very good start. I hope this helps somebody, anybody out there. Like always, please comment, please call in to my station and let me know what you guys think. Let me know what type of topics you guys want to talk about next month. Literally anything. Ask me advice, give me feedback on what I tell you guys. Good or bad, I will take it. I take all of this as learning experiences, so please reach out to me. Please, let's continue to keep this conversation, or many conversations, going with as many people as possible. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will always be posting to my Instagram and Facebook page at The Voice from the Village. And you can also reach me at thevoicefromthevillage@gmail.com with anything that you may need, and to keep up to date with any possible changes or updates to this podcast. Please go follow those pages. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next week.